All right, well done, everybody. So today we're going to be doing Claude 101, creating with artifacts. So let's get to it. I'll start by just sharing my screen. So I'll just be this here. All right, and now I'll just jump over here. So in the last video, we kind of went over introduction to projects. So if you haven't seen that, just check out that. But yeah, so today we're going to be looking at creating with artifacts. So let's get to it. So basically, the learning objectives, what we'll learn today is explain what artifacts are and when Claude creates them, share artifacts with colleagues and publish them publicly, troubleshoot common artifact issues. All right, cool. First off, what is an artifact? So artifacts are standalone interactive outputs that Claude creates in a dedicated window alongside your conversation. Instead of getting a long block of code or text buried in the chat, you see your content rendered and ready to use. Whether that's a working website, an interactive chart, or a document you can immediately download. Okay, so I've definitely seen Claude do this. Like I ask it for a website and then it like kind of opens up like a literal website on the side. So I guess that's an artifact. Didn't know that's what they were called though. Claude automatically creates an artifact when content meets certain criteria. Okay. It's significant and self contained, typically over 15 lines, or it's something you're likely to want to edit, iterate on, or reuse. Yeah. It represents complex content that stands on its own without needing the surrounding conversation. All right. It's content you want to reference or use later. All right, cool. That makes sense. Yeah. Common artifact types. Different types of artifacts, each suited to different needs. Documents, code snippets, HTML, SVG images, mermaid diagrams, and React components. Let's look at each though. So it can create, so Claude can create different types of artifacts, each suited for different needs. So the documents one, including Markdown, plain text, Word docs, PDFs, PowerPoint, and Excel. Great for anything text heavy that you will want to export or continue editing, like meeting notes, reports, project plans, blog posts, and other written content. Okay. Code snippets, working code in any programming language, Python, JavaScript, C++, and more. You can view the code, copy it, or download it to use in your own project. So I guess code snippets are artifacts too. I thought it was just going to be like a generated page, but I guess not. So documents are code snippets. And then yeah, this one now, HTML pages, complete web pages with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in a single file. Perfect for landing pages, forms, interactive demos, or quick prototypes. Cool. SVG images, scalable vector graphics for logos, icons, illustrations, and other visual elements. These render directly in the artifact window so you can see exactly what you're getting. Cool. Mermaid diagrams, flowcharts. Definitely, I've seen this. I just didn't know that flowcharts are considered mermaid diagrams. But yeah, mermaid diagrams, flowcharts, sequence diagrams, Gantt charts, org charts, and more. Describe the relationships you want to visualize, and Claude will create a diagram you can refine. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, if you've been using Claude enough, especially if you're using this for like work-related stuff, you've definitely seen some diagrams. React components, interactive UI elements with real functionalities, calculators, dashboards, games, and data visualizations. These aren't just mockups, they include actual logic and respond to user input. Yeah, I've seen that. All right, so creating your first artifact. Creating an artifact is as simple as having a conversation. Just describe what you want, and Claude will determine whether to present it as an artifact. For example, you might say, create a flowchart showing our customer onboarding process. Note Claude may now generate visual diagrams like flowchart as HTML using Imagine, in addition to code-based artifacts. All right, another way how you could create an artifact is Build an interactive is tell Claude to build an interactive dashboard that lets me input monthly expenses and see a breakdown. Okay. Or you could tell it design a landing page for a productivity app with a hero section and feature list. Another one is write a project brief template I can reuse for new initiatives. Because remember, an artifact can be a document too. So it can be a document. Let's just look at it again. So it can be a document. It could be code snippets. It could be a HTML pages. It could be SVG images, mermaid diagrams, which are basically just flow charts, or different types of charts, and React components, interactive UI elements. All right. So if Claude doesn't automatically create an artifact when you expect one, you can explicitly ask, create this as an artifact, or show me this in an artifact. So I guess like if you ask for a website or you ask for some dashboard or whatever, and you just kind of give it just kind of tell you how to do it. I guess you could just say create this as an artifact. Not tough. I didn't even know that. When Claude generates an artifact, it appears in a dedicated window to the right of your conversation. Okay. From here, you can view different formats, toggle between a preview, how it looks, and the underlying code. You can also copy content. Click the copy icon to grab the content for use elsewhere. You can just copy it like that. Okay. Download files. Save the artifact as a file to your computer. You can view code, see exactly what Claude generated under the hood. Okay, so you can do all of this. So you have full access to whatever artifact they make. You can see the code, you can copy it, you can view the formats, you can download it, that stuff. Sharing and publishing artifacts. Once you've created something useful, you have several options for sharing it. Copy or download for personal use or sharing via other channels. Use the copy or download buttons in the lower right corner of the artifact window. You can share within your organization using Claude for Work. Team and enterprise users can share artifacts internally with colleagues. The shared artifact stays within your organization and requires team authentication to access. Publish publicly. For free, pro, and max users, you can publish artifacts to make them accessible to anyone with the link. When you publish, once the selected version becomes public, your chat remains private. Okay. So if you publish it, it doesn't mean say your chat will become public. Will become public. The chat still remain private, which is tough. Anyone can view and interact with the artifact without a Claude account. Ooh, I didn't know this. That's kind of surprising. So anyone can view and interact with the artifact without a Claude account. Others can remix your artifact, opening it in their own Claude conversation to modify and build upon it. I guess that would be the benefit of sharing it though. So if you build out a website, you could copy it and paste it to your friend, and them could like continue building on it. So that's pretty good. To publish, and as it says right here, it won't necessarily share everything. Oh yeah, only the selected version becomes public. Your chat remains private. So yeah. All right. To publish, click the share or publish button in the upper right corner of the artifact. You can unpublish at any time by returning to that artifact and removing public access. Oh, okay. You can just unpublish at any time by returning to that artifact and removing public access. Note, when you publish an artifact, it is publicly accessible via its link. Anyone can view it even without a Claude account. So I guess beware before you publish an artifact. Published artifacts are not indexed by search engines, so they won't appear in Google results. Tips for getting the most from artifacts. Be specific about what you want. Build a budget tracker is good, but build a monthly budget tracker where I can put input expenses by category, see a pie chart breakdown, and get a warning when I'm over budget is better. Describe the end user. Telling Claude who will use artifact helps it make appropriate design choices. This flowchart is for new employees, leads to different results than this flowchart is for the engineering team. So this is another thing that I'm noticing a lot too in these Anthropic courses, is our Claude 101 courses. The more specific you are, the more detail you give Claude, the more context you give it, the better the result will be. Being less vague helps. All right. So iterate incrementally. Ask Claude to add one feature or make a change or make one change at a time. This makes it easier to identify what's working and working and catch issues early. Okay. So instead of writing one huge prompt, break it up into smaller pieces. If you make a website, start with maybe the first page, landing page, build out some components of the landing page. Then once you're done with the landing page, go over to maybe the dashboard or go over to the profile. Just take your time, you know? All right, request artifacts when needed. If you ask for something substantial and Claude responds in the chat instead of creating an artifact, just say, please create that as an artifact. And he kind of explained that earlier too. So yeah. So now it says lesson reflection. Wow, this done already? All right, so what recurring work could benefit from having an interactive artifact you can use? Can't think off the top of my head right now, but if you guys can think of some, just mention it in the comments. All right. Other one is, are there processes in your work that would become clearer as a flow chart or diagram? I would say yes. Like if I'm like working out like the architecture for an app, flow charts definitely help with that. Just to see like where the data is gonna come from. Like maybe I'm gonna get data from Firebase and then I need it in my app, but then I need to run some other analytic stuff with maybe a different framework. It kind of helps with that. What prototype or tool would help you test an idea quickly? Prototype or tool. I guess I usually just use the simulator and then just kind of manually test it or write unit tests or snapshot tests. I don't know. If you guys can think of some better ones, let me know in the comments. All right. And now, so what's next? So you know our style is we're gonna just do a quick refresher, a quick summary, just to run through this. So what are artifacts? Artifacts are standalone interactive outputs that Claude creates in a dedicated window alongside your conversation. All right. So instead of getting a long block of code or text buried in the chat, you see your content rendered and ready to use, whether that's a working website, an interactive chart, or a document you can immediately open. Cool. All right, so Claude automatically creates an artifact when content meets these criteria. It's significant and self-contained, typically over 15 lines. I'm not going to read all of these since we read it before. Another one is common artifact types are documents. You can get an artifact as a document. You'll get as code snippets, a rendered HTML pages, SVG images, mermaid diagrams, which are basically flow charts or sequence diagrams, charts, all of that, or React components. So there's a bunch of ways where you can get different artifacts, right? All right, so creating your first artifact. Creating an artifact is as simple as having a conversation. Just describe what you want, and Claude will determine whether to present it as an artifact. And it's going to be presented based on these rules here, right? All right, so for example, you might say, so for creating artifact, you might say, create a flowchart showing our customer onboarding process. Claude may now generate visual diagrams like flowcharts as HTML using Imagine in addition to code. All right. Build an interactive dashboard that lets me input monthly expenses and sees a breakdown. Cool. If Claude doesn't automatically create an artifact when you expect one, you can just explicitly just say, yo, create me an artifact for this. All right. When Claude generates an artifact, it appears in a dedicated window to the right of your conversation. From here, you can view different formats, copy content, you can even download the files or view the code that's used to make that artifact. So sharing and publishing artifacts. Once you've created something useful, you have several options for sharing it. Copy or download. You can share within your organization if you have Claude for work. You can publish publicly as well. And that's you can publish publicly even from the free, pro, or max users. That's tough. Didn't know that I allow free users to do that. So tips for getting the most from artifacts, be specific about what you want. All right, and this is the example. I actually read this example. Build a budget tracker is good, but build a monthly budget tracker where I can input expenses by category, see a pie chart, a breakdown, and get a warning when I'm over budget is better. Agree. All right. So describe the end user. Tips for getting the most from artifacts. Describe the end user, like who is this? Who is going to be using this tool or so. All right. Iterate incrementally. So don't try to have it build the entire thing. Build it piece by piece, small pieces, and you eventually get there. Request artifacts when needed. All right. So if you ask for something substantial and Claude responds in the chat instead of creating an artifact, you can just say, please create me an artifact for this. And that was our summary. But last thing, let's just test out one of these inside of Claude. So it says, let's just go with this one. So build an interactive dashboard that lets me input monthly expenses and see a background. I'm see a breakdown. So I'll go to Claude and I'm literally just going to paste that in. I remember if it doesn't create me an artifact, I'll just literally just be like, yo, could you just create me an artifact for this? All right, let's jump back to Claude. So it is creating me an artifact for this. So I can interact with this and do all this stuff. But this is like built in. Usually it'd be on the side. Maybe this is different now. All right, I'm giving it some time to finish. And then I'm gonna literally just ask it, is this an artifact? And why is it not on the right side? I don't know if this is something new where they're building it inline, like in the chat. Now this looks tough. And you can interact with it and do all of this. Gaming. 20. Oh. 20. Okay, gaming right here. And if you're ready, you can just remove it. Okay. Is this an artifact? No, this is an inline widget rendered through the visualizer tool, not an artifact. A practical difference, artifacts open in their own panel beside the chat, persist as a discrete object you can reopen, and support React with full library. Okay. Visualizer widget render inline in message itself are scoped to the conversation flow, run as a sandbox HTML. Okay. For an expense dashboard, you would actually use an artifact is the better call. You could keep adding to it, and no, I can do it with React. I'm like, okay, make this as an artifact. All right, so people, this, like it said, this isn't an artifact. They say it's an inline widget. It's a visualizer widget. A visualizer is a widget. Oh yeah. So this is an inline widget rendered through the visualizer tool. So it's an inline widget because it's in the chat. And now I asked it to make me this as an artifact. And you see it right in the code. So let's see how this looks. And then after that, we're good. So it's writing up this artifact. It's converting the dashboard to an artifact. And then it should show on the side right here. Don't more time. I mean, this is writing this fast if you really think about it. I think we just gotten so used to AI just doing stuff like this. So it's just like, yeah, but this is super fast. Imagine I never write this fast. Yeah, so that's crazy. If I click on this, all right. So now we are looking at the artifact. So boom. And this look better. I guess I do like it like this. And I'll try to add one more. So I'll just say gaming. Add the amount as 29, whatever. Utilities. And I'll just add. You see it does update it here. It gives like an overlay. So yeah, so that's an artifact. And they said if I should close this and go over here, and then I go in my artifacts. I don't see it here though. So how do I make it that that artifacts just goes inside of it? Maybe I do this. Oh, publish artifact, download.js. If I hit publish artifact, oh, but that's gonna make it published to everywhere else. Publishing this artifact will make it accessible to anyone on the internet and potentially visible in the. Oh, okay, so I'm not sure why it didn't show up in my artifacts section. Why didn't this artifact show up in my artifacts tab in Claude Desktop? Okay, so that's worth checking before I assume anything has changed on the product side. Yeah, because I thought as soon as it made the artifact, it would just save in here. But if we go in here, there's nothing. Yeah, hold on, this one, there's nothing. Honest answer, because what I made wasn't actually an artifact. I was loose with the terminology. When you said make this an artifact, I created a j.js file and presented it through the file sharing mechanism. All right. That renders a file in chat as a downloadable, but it doesn't enter the artifacts library in your sidebar. The artifact space in your sidebar shows things created through Claude's actual artifact system. A dedicated window with code preview. Can I zoom in here? Sorry, people, I didn't realize it's so zoomed out. A dedicated window with code or preview tabs. I should have been clearer up front. So it didn't even make me an actual artifact, basically. To catch it on my end, blah, blah, blah. 2 ways forward. You paste the code into a new conversation and ask God to put this in an artifact. I can save it as a standalone HTML with React and so it is runs in any browser, not an artifact, but actually usable today. I'm like, bro, just make this in an artifact. Put this in an artifact. In an artifact. Yeah, you telling me to go inside a different browser, a different window. Put this in an artifact. I'm talking about grappling with artifact. I can't, and I don't want to fake it by running the same code path again. That's why I produced the file and that didn't make it. The tools available to me here go through file creation, not the native artifact system that populates a sidebar. Doing it again with the part that actually works, open a new chat and paste this instead. Oh man. All right, just for y'all, I will actually do this. So it said I should paste this. And this says, build me a monthly expense dashboard as a React artifact. Liquid glass, aesthetic, frosted cards with backdrop blur, soft inner highlights, dark ambient background, include an ad form for description, blah, 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 4 metric cards, a donut chart with read charts showing breakdown by category, a percentage bar list, and an expense list with delete buttons. Proceed with a few example expenses. All right. So it says it's a reading front-end design skill before building the artifact. So it better build an artifact this time and not tell me about some foolishness. All right. See what I want while I build that out. Run that. So let's jump back to Claude. So let's see what it does. Will it really build what we need this time? Architecting layout structure, crafting component. I really like that Claude actually gives us these. So you have an idea of what's happening versus just having this spinning thing. I can do the drop down for some more. All right, so I guess it just planned everything. I'm grasping design direction now. The user wants a liquid glass, aesthetic, apple, blah, blah, blah. And it's done. I'll build a liquid glass expense dashboard with frosted cards, ambient color blobs behind everything for the glass to refract and proper specular edge highlights. All right. So now it's building the dashboard. And you see it's writing all this code right here. Some JavaScript. Never really learned JavaScript. I was more of like, Swift UI. I did learn Python for a little bit, but never really got into JavaScript. They tried to have us learn React Native, but I'm a native development person. But I am planning to learn Android development though. Especially with AI, it's just so much easier to use and learn this. You're not sure about something, have AI explain it. Or but still read like other articles. Because there's something different about reading like a human written article. As I don't know. I guess I'm just so used to that. So I like to do that. So you see it doing its thing here. Yeah, let's see what it makes this artifact look like. What's going on though? Like it really have write some code heavy. Boom, 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 boom. No itching. All right. All right. Yo, this look amazing. I'm not like all this crunch up, but that's not the point. Let's just add something. So food, 100. I'd expand to see to that. Cool. And if I close that, and then if I go over here, we better some artifact. I still don't see the artifact over here. I still don't see the artifact in my artifacts tab here. Yeah, unless it takes some time to refresh, maybe. Just a command R that forced a refresh. I look like that's froze, Claude. My bad, bro. All right. It looked like I just froze Claude with doing that, but what is because I say it has a .jsx file in the outputs directory instead of using the artifact system. That puts it in the file span rather than the artifacts tab, and it doesn't render. You just get a download link. Let me redo it as a proper artifact so it renders inline and shows up where you expect. If it's gonna rewrite all of this, I don't have time for wait for it to rewrite all of this. But people clearly look like it can be weird when it shows up in the artifacts tab. Because it keeps building this. It says it saved it as a JSX file when it should have saved it as it should have filed in the outputs directory instead of using the artifact system. Yeah, it should have used the artifact system or whatever, but it honestly just saved it as a .jsx file. That's why it's not showing up over here. So that's kind of annoying because I was really hoping that this would work. And I gotta go. So I'll let you guys see how this ends in the next one. So I'm gonna go over, unless you think it'll take too long. Let's see how long it'll take. I think it's gonna take way too long. So what I'm gonna do is let's go back to YouTube. And again, people, I'll let you see that how it renders in the next video. But yeah, if you like this and you want to see me review or do more content, just go through a lot of these articles and you just want to learn together, yeah, just stick around, just like, comment, share. And yo, remember the motto, anyone can learn anything with time, practice, and failures. All right, I'm out. Let me just check one more time to make sure this thing is not done. Oh, it actually is done. That should render in Artifacts tab now. If it's still landing in files instead of rendering, that's a quirk for this particular interface. Cool. Let's go over to Artifacts, and we still don't have it. So not sure what's happening there, but yeah. So we'll check on that next time. But yeah, if you like this, like, comment, share. And again, remember the motto, anyone can learn anything with time, practice, and failures. All right, I'm out.